Hi, my name is Natalie Ledwell, and this is The Inspiration Show. Today on the show, I have a very special guest with me who I actually met when I was on my recent trip to Sydney. And she is known as one of the most successful female entrepreneurs in Australia. And she has a new book coming out that we're going to be talking about. But before I introduce her, I just want to make sure that once the show is over, don't forget to click the link that's below this video so you can download the ebook version of my best-selling book, Never in Your Wildest Dreams. So let me introduce my special guest today, Pauline. Hi, Pauline. How are you?
Hello. I am so very, very good. Thank you for having me.
Now, I actually met Pauline at her very famous restaurant, Red Lantern in Sydney. And for those of you who are planning to travel to Sydney, it is a must-stop shop when you go there. Beautiful 5-star Vietnamese food, fresh ingredients. It's just incredible. So make sure that you do yourself a favor and drop in there and have a meal. But we're not going to be talking necessarily about the restaurant today, but Pauline has a new book out called The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur. So that's what we're going to be talking about. But Pauline, before we do that, can you tell our audience a little bit about your backstory and how you got into, writing this book and being on this journey?
Of course. First of all, hello, everyone. Natalie, thank you so much for having me, and congratulations all to you. Absolute success that you've had, and how fortuitous that I got to speak with you when you were in town and in the restaurant. Thank you for having me. So we've been this now for 17 years, which is a huge feat for a very fickle, challenging and competitive industry, the restaurant industry. I started working when I was 7. We came here as boat people. After the Vietnam War, my father smuggled us out on a boat that he and his mates built. They disguised as fishermen, and we escaped the communist regime. We spent 9 days out at sea, and then ended up in Thailand, where we spent a very difficult year in a refugee camp there, and that was where my brother Luke was born. My mother was pregnant with him at the time. Some of you might know my brother Luke. He's got a whole lot of travel shows and cookbooks. He's quite well known worldwide. And coming to Australia, my father suffered terribly from post-traumatic stress disorder. And so growing up and coming into a new country with nothing, we were at the receiving end of my father's anger, trauma, violence. And that's very much what first book, The Secrets of the Red Lantern, was about. It is a beautiful story about personal freedom and family and hope. And I disguised it as a cookbook so people would buy it. and it worked a treat. I won Debut Writer of the Year for it. It became this international bestseller. And but at the core of it, it is very much about dealing with fear and the stress factors with that, and growing up not wanting to pass on this to the next generation. So I know what fear smells like. I know what fear smells like. Growing up and having to get good grades, otherwise we will be beaten up. Growing up having to work in the family businesses. My father had a restaurant, a video library, an ice cream parlor. He also operated a driving school on the side, and us kids provided the child labor. So entrepreneurship, business ethics, all those things really defined us. And so we have a restaurant now which has been around for 17 years. And I think this and the desire and the hunger to evolve was a very big reason for this next book called The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur, The 7 Secrets to Becoming Fearless, Stress-Free and Unshakable in Business and in Life. And I think as entrepreneurs and as human beings, I always say personal development cannot happen unless personal disruption happens first, right? And the old ways aren't working for so many of us, you know. I've read so many self-help and self-development books, and I've been on so many courses that says, you know, we have to aim for happiness and pursuit of happiness, you know. And then in my coaching and mentoring and speaking, I meet so many people who suffer from depression and anxiety and suicide and overwhelm, and they're like, I'm not happy, there's something wrong with me, you know. And I'm like, you're not meant to be happy 24/7. We're human beings, we're entrepreneurs. And they're like, but this is what the Dalai Lama says, and this is what they're meditating in a monastery, and they don't have family pressures and work pressures and life pressures. And so, no, happiness alone is not such a great trait. Fearlessness is a much more powerful as entrepreneurs and as business people. You know, how do we understand fear? How do we manage fear so that we can do our best work, so that our brain capacity can function at its best? How can we understand all those things so we can fear less? How do we adapt the tools psychologically to stress less? You know, and understanding there's good stress and there's bad stress, but how can we access that culture practices? Ultimately, she will always happen. She will always happen. You know, if you think, I'm not happy, something's wrong with me, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not meant to be happy. But then how do you master yourself so that you can become unshakable in the face of any adversity, to not forget to be human, you know? And it's that unshakability that means progress, that means optimism. Doing our best work and becoming our best selves. And that's what the new book is about. And so many people are saying with spirituality. You know, don't be afraid of the word. Spirituality means to be spirit.
Yeah, because what is the difference between an entrepreneur and a spiritual entrepreneur? What do you think is the difference between the two?
An entrepreneur, well, essentially we're the same. It takes a particular ilk of personality to be an entrepreneur. Would you agree? It's the constant need to solve problems, and there's also the focus issue. It's not an ideas issue; it's a focus issue. But a spiritual entrepreneur understands that we design our future. We design not only our biology, but also our biography, so that we can live an inspired life, so that we can be in spirit, so that, and when we're not afraid of the woo-woo, we're not afraid to start again and say, I don't have to fight my way to the top. I can move mountains with the gentlest of touch, because there's a new way of doing things now. And I think be very passionate about the word evolution, because we're all here to evolve, but evolution implies a very passive and gradual response. But revolution implies a action and a massive intent, and this massive intent is, I now choose to be in spirit. And we're not just talking about mindset here. We have to talk about heart set and soul set, as well as our health set.
Yeah, I think what it sounds like you're saying is that, yes, we want to be entrepreneurs and have these incredible businesses, but we're building it from a place of meaningfulness and a place of purposefulness. Would that be right?
Fulfillment. And fulfillment. And I also believe when we understand the ways of the spiritual entrepreneur, I mean, let's face it, it's in a world that's created for exponential growth. It's too late for just evolution. We have to become revolution. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. And I truly believe that as entrepreneurs, when we adopt the ways of the spiritual entrepreneur, we will have the unfair advantage and the competitive edge in business and in life. And by being on this podcast today and speaking to your very inspired listeners, we're talking to the right people, right? Because new times demand new strategies.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. I think that the way that we do business now is completely different. You know, I was just talking to you before we got onto the recording today about how I, used to own a nightclub and I had all these different businesses. But the way that we do business now is so much form of a place of collaboration. And by working together, and there's not as much competition as there used to be. You know, what are some of the changes that you've seen in the way that we, as entrepreneurs run our business now?
I belong to a number of entrepreneurial inner circles, and it's that not letting fear determine our future anymore. I don't want to. Most of the stuff we stress about, 90% of it doesn't even happen. It works as rumination in our mind, and we almost manifest that stuff happening, right? I think the biggest change is, I get off stage or I speak to so many people, and not just that the collective consciousness is ready for this next revolution of spirituality, they're craving it. They're craving it. Because once they allow themselves to tap into it, there's this incredible sense of freedom, and then freedom to do our best work. The big difference now is that there's an openness, open-mindedness and an open-heartedness to say, how can I do things differently now that is kinder to myself, humanity, rather than just looking into the bank account. I know people who are, have very full bank accounts, but are bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt. And there's also those who are full of spirit, but are struggling financially. And so the way of the spiritual entrepreneur allows us to have inner abundance as well as outer abundance and inner peace.
Yeah. So how do you go about that? I agree. I think, when Glenn and I were building Mind Movies, we were very clear about the lifestyle we wanted. So, we really wanted a business that would help us be able to create that and still be able to fit into what we wanted to do. So how do people find, more fulfillment, in their day-to-day life? Like how does that happen?
I missed, you cut out a little bit, Nat. Can you please repeat that?
Yeah. So how do you recommend, or what are some recommendations that you can give to people if they want to find more fulfillment in their life and in their business? How do they go about that?
You got to read the book. Then you got to read the book. Natalie, one of the most important things, and people call it, I used to call it biohacking, but they're hacking on biohacking. Started my biohacking journey about 5 or 6 years ago, and as I've observed, it's become more and more about what other gadget can I purchase? What other new thing can I consume? And for me in my coaching, it's how about we get back to what you already have inside of you, what the universe and nature already gives you. And these are the forgotten and the overlooked developments that it's not about consumption. Sure, buy gadgets that will measure your physiology and measure your brainwaves if you wish, but don't keep on buying stuff. And so how we start our day is a big foundation, getting up and watching the sunset. The frequency of the sunrise is so incredibly healing. Spending 15 minutes out in nature, forest bathing. Never underestimate the power of nature's medicine. The photons are in the leaves and the trees, increases your immune system and decreases the risk of cancer and sickness by 50%, and helps you solve more problems when you walk and talk out in nature. And this is the foundations of finding a more fulfilled life, you know, changing the definition of what happiness and success means. And so for myself, the foundations for me, you know, I get up quite early to pray and to meditate. I have a lot to be grateful for, and your audience will know gratitude is the frequency of manifestation, gratitude and forgiveness. But then you also end up hanging out in gamma in the whole day, and this is when you make shit really happen, right? And you know, and all the biohacking stuff, the cold showers, the dry brushing, the fasting, you know, the victory that you have over yourself. Willpower before you leave the door will set yourself up for victories for the rest of the day. And then once you've got those foundations, you're in an elevated state and you have positive intentions, and that is the start of fulfillment and the start of manifestation. It's got to be in the foundations to give you the competitive edge. It's got to start at the foundation.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you're doing is when you're resonating at that higher frequency all day, that frequency is the same frequency as abundance. So you're in flow and everything happens easier for you. Everything, you know, starts to fall into place. You know, you have those chance meetings, those unusual conversations, those, you know, the things that come through. So yeah, I'm completely on the same page with you as that. So darling, if people want to connect with you, if they want to get their hands on the book, which I highly recommend, The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur, it's really, especially if you're someone who's building a business or if you're in business and you've got there and you're going, you know, is this what it's all about? Like, is this what I worked my butt off for? I'm not this, it has to be more than this. The Way of the Spiritual Entrepreneur is going to be a book that's really going to help you, you know, move through that to a place of meaning and fulfillment. So, yeah, where can we send them to connect with you and get their hands on the book?
The book is available on my website for now. It launches officially in bookstores and online on other platforms at the end of February. But you can get my book on Pauline Nguyen, Pauline nguyen.com.au/book. Otherwise, please reach out. I love hearing from people. Pauline@paulinenguyen.com.au.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure that we have the banner here and the link underneath the video so that you can click directly on that link to go through to Pauline's website. So, Pauline, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, everyone. Namaste. Thank you.
Awesome. So, guys, please, let's get the word out. Let's share this video. You can do that by clicking the Facebook and the Twitter share buttons on this page. Click on the banner or the link underneath to go straight through to Pauline's website. And after all that's over, don't forget to click the link below that so that you can download the free ebook version of my best-selling book, Never in Your Wildest Dreams. So until next time, remember to live large, choose courageously, and love without limits. We'll see you soon.